Macbeth by William Shakespeare. Close reading by Paige, Danny, Eve, and Morgan. Act 1, Scene 7, lines 1 to 25. This soliloquy is spoken by Macbeth while he is deciding whether or not he should kill King Duncan. This shows his ongoing conflicting behavior, which we have decided is the theme of this passage, which we will explain by using figurative imagery, syntax and structure, diction, and literal imagery. Hi, my name is Paige, and my job was figurative imagery, and a simile is comparison using like or as, a metaphor is a comparison of two things not using like or as, and personification is giving an inanimate object human-like characteristic. This is repetition of the word done, which shows that Macbeth is debating with himself over finally completing the action of killing Duncan. If it were done when 'tis done, then 'twere well if done quickly. The repetition is showing Macbeth constantly thinking of if killing Duncan is the right thing to do, and he is thinking of it happening over and over again, showing his conflicting emotions. This is a metaphor explaining how him killing Duncan could act as a net, sweeping up everything and preventing all consequences, making killing Duncan seem better and better. If the assassination could trample up the consequences and catch. This means that him and Lady Macbeth would have no consequences if they went through with the action because no one would ever find out what happened. This is personification of we jump the life to come, meaning that himself and Lady Macbeth would be overjoyed with the thought of being royal. This relates to the theme of confliction because at this point he is thinking of all the benefits and his ambition to complete the prophecies and become king, not taking into account that he is committing a murder and that people will find out and he will have to do drastic things to get out of this. This simile, will plead like angels, means that Duncan is very known and well-liked as he is king, and many people will plead for his well-being and notice that he is gone, which will lead to Macbeth having to cover up his murder. Also, Macbeth, being one of the king's subjects, should feel the same way as them and not wish to overthrow the great chain of being to fulfill the prophecies. This shows his conflicting emotion because he wants to become king and wants to make Lady Macbeth happy. However, he still wants to be noble and appreciative of what the king has done for him and how that they are friends and now he's the Thane of Cawdor. This simile, pity like a naked newborn babe, means that Duncan is viewed as precious and fragile human, being almost as protected as a newborn baby, and his death would be just as tragic. This shows Macbeth's conflicting nature in the soliloquy because he is thinking about all of Duncan's supporters and how many people would be sad with his death. Also, Macbeth is realizing that Duncan is truly his friend and he should not wish any harm upon him. Here I am underlining the personification of the tears shall drown the wind, which means that all the grieving and crying over Duncan's death will be so overpowering and loud that Shakespeare relates it to drowning out the wind. This again is showing that Macbeth is pondering his options of killing Duncan and is thinking of the consequences of the people around him if he completes the act.
Hi, my name's Morgan, and my section of the project was literal imagery and symbolism. In the concrete description of the text, Macbeth is weighing the pros and cons of killing Duncan. The first time we see this is when he says, if the assassination could trample up the consequence and catch with his surcease success. Here Macbeth is explaining that if killing Duncan were the only thing that needed to happen, the task would be simple. However, there is much more that needs to be done, thus leading to his confliction. Macbeth's confliction when he says, as his host, who should against his murderer shut the door, not bear the knife myself. In this he is implying that no one would expect him to be the king's murderer, as he is his kinsman and Duncan had just made him the Thane of Cawdor. Therefore, Macbeth would get away with it. The most significant sense is seen when he says that tears shall drown the wind. This gives the reader a very strong visual of how upset the people will be. Relating back to our theme, this quote also implies that it would give Macbeth the perfect window of time to finish his task, as everyone would be distracted by the king's death. This makes Macbeth think that everything will turn out fine, thus adding to his indecisiveness. When Macbeth says, to plague the inventor, the plague is a symbol of death, and he is saying that he wishes that the people who invented murder would die so that he wouldn't feel it necessary to kill King Duncan, as deep down as he realizes it is a bad thing to kill Duncan, resulting in further confliction of whether he should do it or not.
Hi, my name is Eve and my job was diction. The words that stood out to me are assassination, consequence, success, judgment, even-handed justice, the deed, murder, knife, virtues, and ambition. Assassination stood out to me because the whole scene is Macbeth contemplating if he should assassinate King Duncan. Consequence, even-handed justice, judgment, success, and virtues all fall under the same category. Macbeth keeps jumping back and forth saying that he will kill Duncan to he will not, and the words I have chosen are all factors that come into play when he is making his decision. Macbeth seems to be torn and is trying to convince himself to kill Duncan. The deed, murder, and knife tie in together. Macbeth is contemplating if he should kill Duncan, which is the deed, and murder, and he will be committing this act with a knife. Ambition stood out to me because that's his motive. He wants to be king so bad that he will kill anybody in his way. The phrases that stood out to me were, if it were done when 'tis done, then 'twere well were done quickly. If the assassination could trammel up the consequence and catch up with his secret success, that but his blow might be all and the end all here. But he upon this bank and shoal of time we jumped life to come. But in these cases we still have judgment here, to prick the sides of my intent, but only vaulting ambition, which or keeps itself and falls on the other.